So brain, background, and being together. Those are the 3 Bs of why music can be such a powerful and effective therapeutic medium for older adults and their caregivers. Which is functional magnetic resonance imaging. You know what MRIs are, right? They take a picture of your brain while you're awake. That's an fMRI. We know from fMRI studies that the limbic system is very active when people are just listening to music. Because right now, all we can take a picture, do that for is when people are laying in a tube flat and listening to music. So when people listen to music, the limbic system lights up. We also know that the auditory cortex lights up, so the part of your brain that's processing this auditory information. But so does the motor cortex and the parts of the lower part of your brain that control movement and movement planning are also active when people are listening to movement. So even when you're laying still in a tube, your brain is sensing movement. So think about what that means for somebody who can't move their body very much. That you can feel this movement in music, right? There's a John Denver song that is not going to come to my head right away, but the song "Fly Away," you know that one? Da 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 da. You know that one? Fly away. I had a client several years ago on hospice who had multiple sclerosis, end of life, so she had very little movement left. Younger woman, younger for hospice patient. She was in her, say, late 40s. And that was a very important song for her, along with Eagles and Horses, which is about flying and freedom, because it gave her that feeling of freedom while she was stuck in her body, okay? That's music processed through the brain, giving somebody a feeling of freedom. And how profound is that, right? So we are just in research beginning to unlock everything that's happening in our brains when we're listening to music. And the more we learn, the more exciting it gets, because it explains so much of what we as music therapists and as human beings who like music already know about the connection and the joy and the memories and all that come from music. First B. The second B is background, and that is connecting with who you are and what's important to you as a person. So here's the demonstration we're going to do for that. I'm going to play a little bit of a clip of a few different songs, and I just want you to listen to the first part of it, 10 seconds or so. When you recognize the song, you can just raise your hand. And then when I turn the song off, you can just say, what kinds of memories or feelings come to mind, if any. And if you don't have any connection to the song, you can say that too. Or if you don't know it, you can say that. All right? So, remember to charge my speaker. It's very good. All right. Here's your first sample. Raise your hand when you know it.
My girl.
No cheating. All right. So you know it. So what kind of feelings, memories? Teenage years, yeah.
Makes me think about the movie.
The movie My Girl. So when did that come out? It came out in the 80s, right? Yeah. Okay, so the movie My Girl, different generation, I'm imagining, from you guys to you guys, right?
Yeah, imagine that.
Just guessing. What else? What else comes to mind?
My son's wedding, he played this, or he chose this for his bride.
Very nice. Okay, so see, she has a very specific episodic memory attached to that song, her son's wedding. Now, if I were a music therapist and you didn't have any speech left, and I haven't been in, if your family hasn't been in touch or whatever, how am I supposed to know that that song is going to have that significance for you? And say it just comes out and then there's a strong emotional reaction, Cool, right? Hopefully it's not upsetting. Mm-hmm. For those of you who had more general memories, like teenage years, the movie My Girl, what kind of feelings do you have there? Happy?
Good.
Yeah, just generally good, right?
Yeah.
Something that you connect with, yeah. Is this a song that you would necessarily put on a playlist of your top 40 favorite songs ever? Anybody?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Maybe?
Top 100.
Huh?
Top 100.
Top 100, okay, top 100. Yeah, so this is a song for me that I like it, you know, and I'm happy to listen to it, but I don't know if I would necessarily say it's my favorite song or even in my top 100 necessarily. But if somebody were to play that for me 50 years from now, I'd probably be glad to hear it, okay? Because it brings something back. It brings some kind of warm memory back to me. So we can have anything from a very specific memory to just a feeling of warmth and familiarity. Okay, here's another one. You recognize it yet?
Off the Magic Dragon.
Or cheating.
You are
Giving
cheating.
all the answers away.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I go right to the, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, so Puff the Magic Dragon. This is the Peter, Paul, and Mary version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other part is I play it every time I go to it.
Do you sound like this version, or do you have
Yeah, no, we do. Very similar.
very similar version?
Because that's what they remember was the original.
Right? Yeah.
I'll try not to say the song.
Right. It's okay. Second warning, second warning. Okay, so what about that song? Do you have any specific memories or feelings?
Apparently, when I was a child, I used to cry at the end of this song. My mother thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, she would torture you with it?
Well, not really, but
I know.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah, sometimes people do have a really strong emotional reaction to a song. And I have to say that my emotions run high to the surface, and so I tear up listening to songs like this too. There are like hundreds of songs that make me teary.
Reminds me of when people talked about what it meant.
There you go. So do you know what she's talking about? About the deeper meaning of this song?
Puff the Magic Dragon.
Right, Puff the Magic Dragon. Yeah.
Just wanted to talk for half the people.
Which is all about connection, togetherness with the people you're with right now. Now, as all of you in this room know, as we age, our social connections change, right? People die, people move away, we lose friends to dementia, we lose friends to lots of other things. And so most of the people we work with are experiencing some degree of change in their social network and maybe some isolation. And then depression that can come along with that. And we know from studies now that isolation, people who are isolated have a higher rate of morbidity too. Like people die sooner, their lives are shorter if they don't have social connections. So music is one of those things that can help people to have meaningful relationships in a very smooth and easy way. Music has always been something that brings communities together, that brings families together. I'm sure all of you can think of 20 examples of how music has been a piece of some kind of social celebration, like a wedding, or something that you did in your family. Like when I was growing up, my brothers and I, my mom and dad in the minivan singing along with the We Sing tapes, which were very popular in the 80s. And we would sing, I learned all kinds of folk songs, driving down the road to Grandma's house, singing those songs with my parents. And that's a very special memory to me, but it was bonding us as a family as well. So music can be one of those tools that helps to build the community within a senior living community. It can help to build relationships between clients and their caregivers or care partners. So if you're in a hospice situation or a home care situation, a lot of times people's backgrounds are very different, where you have somebody maybe who's a recent immigrant to the United States, doesn't have very good English, and then you have somebody who grew up in Kansas City and, is upper middle class and white and Christian, all those different kinds of things. How are these people going to connect? Music is one of those things that can help to create that bond. Music can be a very special tool in helping to change the nature of a relationship. So it can make a relationship that feels hierarchical to something that's on a more even playing field, which is something that's very important in elder care, because a lot of times our folks start to feel infantilized, like being treated like children, like they're not allowed to make their own decisions anymore, they're not allowed to decide where to go or who to see or when to eat, sometimes because they just simply can't anymore. And that's hard, and we've all had those difficult conversations with people who just can no longer do something that they want to do, and so it creates this dynamic of my kids telling me I can't drive anymore, or that nurse telling me I have to go take a bath right now, that kind of thing. Music is something that can kind of bring people down to an even level. So one of my favorite stories is when I was at Sunrise of Leawood, this was several years ago, and I think I was there seeing a hospice client, but I was coming down from the upper levels down to the main level, and they were getting ready to have a talent show, like a spring talent show. So they had all the chairs set up, and the assisted living residents were out there. And they had a member of the staff, so I was doing my documentation and kind of watching everybody gather and stuff, and the first performer was a member of the staff who got up there and turned on a karaoke track and then started rapping. Probably a young man in his upper 20s, black, definitely did not match the cultural background of all the people sitting in the audience. But he was just so himself, and he was so full of life. And I tell you what, that audience was totally into it. Like, they loved this guy who's part of their daily lives, and here he is sharing his music with them. He wasn't singing Sinatra, he wasn't an Elvis impersonator, which a lot of times is, we recommend that stuff because that's their familiar music and what's important to them. But he was connecting with them on a human-to-human level, and it was just one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen happen in a senior living community, okay? So those are the kinds of experiences that we would love to see created over and over again. Part of what we do in our music therapy sessions or music therapy groups is that we try to bring in the caregivers as much as possible into the music. And so it's not me, the music teacher, telling you, the clients, to play instruments while the staff stands on the side. It's we're all here together making music together. Here we are in the moment. Let's have some fun. Let's be people together. That's the kind of experience that we want to have. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So brain, background, and being together. Those are the 3 B's of why music can be such a powerful and effective therapeutic medium for older adults and their caregivers.